finances, of course, getting out of debt, managing money, planning your future. That's kind of what our shows are all about. What works for you, and how do you make sure you can, at the end of the day, have money in your pocket? Because a lot of times we see people, they go to work, they work their life at a firm, at a company, or in a career field, and something happens, whether it's their ability or inability to work because they're laid off, they're hurt, maybe their skill set starts to get out of whack with the industry. A good example are printing, right? We had a lot of clients that were in the printing press world. Well, now everything is done on desktops. So we started seeing some of those changes as people's lives were moving in one direction. And then they try to find a job. They say, oh, I have to retrain, I have to redo my career, I have to sit down and do things differently. And now trying to find a job for some, depending on your career field, could be difficult.
And this is really something that kind of goes against what the common knowledge we were always taught, especially in my age at college. And we were told, pick a degree, get your good job, get your career. But how many people do you know that don't even work in the field they got a degree in?
Yeah, you've heard us say this before, guys. It's about 7 out of 10 don't even work in the field in which they earned their degree. Right? They have a communications degree and they work as a paralegal. They have a physical therapy degree and they work as a manager of a restaurant. I can go on and on. And the changes and the preparation for the younger generation seems to impact you in your 20s and 30s and 40s. And if you go back to the guys and gals that are 50 years old, right? It's difficult to go back to school when you're 50. So what a lot of these folks do is they try to find a life to just coast between now and 62 when they can start Social Security. Well, what about young people who are the same, if you will, picking a skill set? Who knows what the career is going to be like in 30 years? The reason I'm sharing this with you guys is because of this. There is a massive migration, historically speaking, hasn't been this bad, of folks leaving California and going to other parts of the country. Now, we've touched on it before, but I'm going to we're starting a series, a 3-part series, and we're going to look at retirees that are making choices to leave California.
And there's many reasons for this. We all know that California is the great state for the weather and everything else, but the quality of life here is not always as good as people seem to think it's going to be. Some people get the idealized image of California, the land of opportunity, go west, all of that.
Go west, young man.
Exactly. And today's real life experience isn't always matching up with the perfect world view that some people had in their minds.
Well, U.S. News and World Report came out with an article recently that said the worst quality of living, California. Now, if you look historically, folks, we're at about a 10-year run of being one of the worst places to live. Unless you are a millionaire or billionaire who lives in Silicon Valley. But here's the secret. The movie stars that live in the Bel Air and Beverly Hills area and the millionaires that live up in Silicon Valley, do you understand many of them do not have California as their residence on their driver's license or their income tax? What that means is their home is in Florida or their home is in Nevada. 0 income tax. Now, they might visit their vacation home in Santa Monica. They might visit their vacation home in San Jose. But that's not their residence. Now, if they earn income in California, fine, they got to pay taxes on that income. But if you're these folks that have various sources of income, residuals, if you're actors or actresses, wherever your residence, that's what is subject to income tax. If you have dividends or dividends or capital gains, which is how a lot of millionaires and billionaires are earning their income, which is a lower federal tax, and is where you live, meaning in California or Nevada or Arizona, wherever you happen to live, that's your residence. Or if you're an athlete, Phil Mickelson, right, moved out of California, got all this flack, and he quietly picked up, sold his place, and moved to Florida. The savings in 1 year of his earnings bought his house free and clear in Florida. what does that mean to retirees and people that are in the very high income? The moment you start making it big and you can leave, people do leave. Now you say, Arif, that is such a negative thing. And listen, our state politicians, folks, I need you to understand this. I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican. You say, Arif, but you're a conservative. Yeah, I am. Listen, it's not my job to worry about your social values, right? The Republican Party lost that. The train left a long time ago, at least in California. But can we at least win on some sort of fiscal grounds? Like, hey, let's just stop spending money on a stupid bullet train? Where Dianne Feinstein's husband was one of the first ones to get a payout of $100 million. And if you're not clear on who she is, you're like, that name sounds familiar, Arif. Yeah, it does, because she's the Democrat senator in the state of California. And her husband, she's a multimillionaire. If you look up, I think she's worth somewhere around $400 or $500 million, right? If you look in Congress, the Democrats are actually more higher net worth on average than the Republicans. But put that aside. I don't care. I want them to be wealthy. Just don't make everybody else not be, right? Shouldn't everybody have the same chance, I guess? But here's the challenge. Her husband is the one who took $100 million contract. Now you have to ask yourself, was he the best one, the only one in the entire United States? And folks, maybe the entire world? There wasn't another person who does what he does? Or do you think that politicians will use that position, whatever it is, to make themselves wealthy? I think some do. I think many do. And I think when you're in an uncontested state like California, you just run roughshod over everybody. That's nice you have that idea, Mr. Republican. Mr. Conservative. Look, it's the same thing in other places. You go to places where it's all Republican, and the Democrats are just, the wallpaper. So, just look at the values. Worst ranking overall rank out of 50 in healthcare is 11. They want to make us in California a universal healthcare state. It will cost the state $40 billion. That's in year one, as if we have that kind of money. So what is happening is something simple. We are starting to see retirees who don't take a job, but who would employ lots of people by the services and products they use. We are seeing them leave. 1 out of 3 of my clients, it's an informal study, but it's about that. So here's today. Today I had a phone call with a client who's already moved to North Carolina. Today I had a phone call with a client who in 2 years is moving to Colorado, taking their defense contractor, the aerospace type job, pension, right? The pension and all the money in their retirement account, and spending that in another state. We have another one that was yesterday's appointment. Gentleman who's moved to Dallas, outside of Dallas, Texas, in Texas. Another one who moved to another city, but outside of Dallas, Texas. So that's 4 people in a day and a half. So I share this with you because those that are left are going to be stuck having to pay the price and the fees and the taxes for what's left, which is this bullet train that saves nothing. That they promised us was going to be $30 billion. I think we're up to $100 billion. And everybody knew that the numbers they were putting out were wrong. And the media would not cover it, would not put the pressure on it because they wanted the Democrat agenda. Listen, if it was the other side, folks, I would tell you. Because I don't really care. I don't care about labels. I want you to not have to. What a shame. Logan, you were born and raised in California. So was I. I was born in Hollywood, raised in the San Fernando Valley. My mom and dad came to California with an address, because it's before emails and cell phones, and it said, go here, and in the San Fernando Valley, this guy owns a gas station, and he will give you a job, it says to my dad, right? Tell him I sent you, and he will give you a job. So my dad's 27, my mom was 18. They drive from Michigan to California.
After knowing each other for how long?
4.5 weeks. From hello to I do. They stayed in Michigan for about another 2 months or so, and then they left, came to California. You used to come to California because it was idealized in the media. It was the place where your dreams came true, where opportunity came true. And now we are at 58,000 homeless people. 58,000. The Los Angeles Police Department's job, when there's rain on the horizon, is to send a team of dirt bike police officers, right? Motor cops that are on dirt bikes, up through the riverbeds. And every county, and the county does this as well, every agency, I should say, in the county that has homeless people living in the riverbeds, they take the motor cop's life and they put them in the riverbed riding dirt bikes, chasing homeless people out, saying, hey, the rain's coming, there could be floods. That's what you think a police officer's job is? Maybe. Maybe I don't, but you can. When are you going to stand up and say enough with this craziness? Because they are chasing you out of the state where your children and grandchildren might be. Gentleman today that I spoke to who's moving to Colorado, I said, why Colorado? He said, well, my daughter and her husband moved to Colorado a couple of years ago because it was the only place they could find an opportunity to buy a house, to live, and to buy a home, but they couldn't afford a home here. So I don't know what the challenge is, how it's going to be met. I don't know. I think you need to, our last election, if you beat up these people all the time, think of it like this. Our last election, 0 incumbents lost their job. 0. That means you thought everybody in state office was doing a good job. Or you were too busy. 0 people lost their job in the state. So that emboldens them to say, we're on this far left progressive agenda, and we're going to just keep taxing people. We're going to keep getting government involved. So we lose Tesla's Gigafactory. We lose Toyota moves out of the state. We lost Nestle, Frito-Lay, Pepsi, and on and on. So how do you protect yourself? We're going to, on this 3-part series, we're going to be running in a variety of ideas and perspectives. And maybe some of them are going to be different. Era, if you don't understand, see the other side. I'm willing to. You want to show me the other side? I love it. All I can do is tell you this, that we see people leaving the state, and that's a challenge. It's a problem for us because of something very simple. The rest of you that are left behind are going to be stuck having to pay the bills. The fiscal stability of California ranked 43 out of 50. Why? Because the government credit score is in the tank. Pension fund liabilities are enormous. So we have to look at this. Go ahead.
And some of these numbers aren't coming from some kooky, right-wing, crazy, alt-right, whatever you want to call it, think tank. This is coming from the California State Legislature's Analytical Office.
Yeah, and the Sacramento Bee, guys. This is, that wildly conservative newspaper called the Sacramento Bee.
This is published 2 weeks ago or so from the Legislative Analyst Office talking about California's losing residents from domestic migration. So
right now we are minus, let's see if I can pull those numbers up. We are minus somewhat, we lost 5 million people in the last 10 years. 5 million. 1 out of 5 residents that are left now are considered poor. You understand that? They fit in the poverty category 1 out of 5. That's 20%. So that is very important when you have a sanctuary state who thinks the non-citizens, the illegal aliens, are more important than the ones that are here paying the bills. That's a problem. When they think the rights of the prisoners and sex offenders should be released from the state prison, when the governor releases them from the state prisons to continue to be a predator on you, after a while, don't you go, hey man, this is just enough is enough. The generous spending in the state of California has not only failed to decrease poverty, but it has actually seemed to have made it worse. You realize that? When you come, ask yourself, when you have a teenager, you say, listen, I know you're busy, teenager, so I'm going to do your laundry for you. I'm going to do the dishes for you. I'm going to do everything. Does the teenager get less lazy or more lazy?
It's going to depend on what everything else the teenager's doing, because I'm a little biased here. I'm still close to that age.
You're 3 years away from being a teenager.
But a big part of this also is behavior that is rewarded continues. So if you say that you can break the law up to this point, it's only, was it $950 they changed it to, is still a misdemeanor.
I can steal a gun that's worth less than $950 and it's a misdemeanor. Do you not? Where does that become normal in your head? How about personal responsibility? Because here's what's going to happen. This is Arif's prediction, and this stuff is recorded, right? So it'll be forever out there somewhere. Here's Arif's prediction. Number one is my prediction is the swing back, like a rubber band, right? You stretch it in one direction, it's going to bounce back. And sometimes the further you stretch it, the harder and faster it bounces back. That's what I think is going to happen. What I think is going to happen is you're going to have such a pushback of the generosity that the state has given towards illegal aliens, towards homeless people, towards criminals and sex offenders, that I think there is going to be such a violent pushback that it's going to go the other direction, and significantly. Because finally it will collapse. And when it does, in one form or fashion, I think people are not going to be rational in that direction. I think you're going to have the far right start taking away things or doing things that the far left is giving away right now. And I think both of them are wrong, right? When you go far extreme into one direction, and we see people leaving at record numbers, where are they going? Where are they going? You might be surprised when we come back. I'm going to give you a list of where these folks are heading out, why they're going there, what are their top reasons when they get there, right? Because we've interviewed them now with about 1,000 clients or so, a little more maybe, and interviewing these folks. What am I finding when I talk to them? And does that match with the data that Logan has pulled from public sources? We'll see in just a minute when we come back. You're listening to me. It's not a fancy topic, right? It's not an overwhelmingly exciting topic, but it is something I think that's really important. And it's a little sad, but listen, you've got to set up. You've got to take handle of this, because nobody else will. The politicians live in a bubble. They're beholden to one or two groups of people, and they're the far left. There isn't anybody from the center who's starting to think clearly anymore. We'll be back in just a minute. You're listening to me, Arif Halaby, along with Logan Halaby, on your place for news, talk, and information. I am Arif on the Total Financial Hour, your hometown station. Be right back.
Why do people from all over Santa Clarita come to our spa in Canyon Country? Simple. They want the highest quality services at prices that everyone can afford. This is Rosemary from Beyond Harmony Med Spa. Read our reviews and know why we won the Ultimate Beauty Awards 2 years in a row by the readers of Elite Magazine. Come and see how close we really are and experience the level of excellence that our clients have loved for the past 13 years. Go to beyondharmony.com or call 298-8008 today for a free consultation.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Hey! Where are you going with that used motor oil? Did you know used oil filters should be recycled too? Yeah, that's right. A used filter has a lot of residual oil left on it even after you drain it, enough to pollute the environment. So make sure to take both the used motor oil and the oil filter to the next filter exchange event or recycling center near you.
Recycle your used motor oil and oil filter at the next event, Saturday, March 10th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at O'Reilly Auto Parts located on Castaic Road in Castaic. Again, Saturday, March 10th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at O'Reilly Auto Parts located on Castaic Road. Participants will receive one free new oil filter valued up to $12. For more information about recycling used motor oil or used oil filters, call 1-888 Clean LA, or visit cleanla.com. Funded by Cal Recycle. It's the annual Egg Hunt and Spring Fling at Gilcrest Farm on March 31st, with egg hunts all day long. Just a short ride up Bouquet Canyon, Gilcrest Farms is celebrating spring with pony rides, wagon rides, a petting zoo, farm animals, crafts, and fun at the farm. Learn how to milk a goat, gather eggs, and best part of all, be part of the Egg Hunt and Spring Fling. Happening March 31st at Gilcrest Farm. Nostalgia has returned to Santa Clarita. It's now at Gilcrest Farm. GilcrestFarm.com.
Team training, life-changing. F45 Training Stevenson Ranch on Lyons Avenue just east of Wiley Canyon. At F45, they have fun. They've created their very own way of functional training so you can train the way you move in everyday life. The F45 style combines both strength and conditioning. Working with friends, you can be assured of results, not boredom. Download the F45 app today. Select Stevenson Ranch in the 2-week trial and book into classes right away. F45 Training Stevenson Ranch. Come join the family.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
This is your place for news, talk, and information. Your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
Hey, welcome back to the show, the Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby, along with Logan, talking about your family's finances, getting out of debt, managing money. We talk about a variety of things, including, and sometimes not so much fun, the why people are leaving California. There's a lot of great articles out there. One of them is The Tragic Decline of California. And it talks about how the army of bureaucrats, I mean, do you understand the layer of people that it takes to get approval to put in a new road? You heard President Trump talk recently. He said, hey, listen, we've got an infrastructure bill. And listen, I'm not an apologist for him. He says and does some things that I don't agree with. So, right? Don't, but he's a child. Listen, I don't care about that. I just want you to fix my country. I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to be your neighbor. And you understand, I don't agree with my wife 100% of the time, and I'm married to her. So come on. You're not going to agree with your president. You can pick out, just the goal is just fix the place, right? Do more things that I think are better than things that I think are not. With that explanation out of the way, why is it that he said, I'm not going to give money to these states that take 10 years to build a freeway or a bridge? Because we have been so overwhelmed by crazy groups. And yeah, I said the word crazy groups like Scope, right? The lady just files a lawsuit just because it, from speckled frog or something. Oh, come on. What about human beings? The environmentalists took over. We have the breadbasket of California is the Central Valley, Bakersfield, Fresno, right? And because of a little fish that got stuck in the vents as they tried to water the area from the Sacramento Delta, they said, oh, we can't give you water in that direction. So you have farmers, right? Those very wealthy, rich, these are farmers, folks, who can't grow pistachios or cherries or water the fields to grow cattle. These are people, fresh water going out the Sacramento River out to sea that used to come down here as if the ocean needs more water. I mean, do you understand how wacky that is? The rest of the country, I've traveled around somewhere around 40 plus states. Do you realize they think California is insane? And these are people that also watch Fox and also watch CNN. Some of them watch MSNBC. Some of them watch ABC, CBS. There's not one news broadcast in any one city or state. And when you say you're from California, they go, what's going on there? They pull me aside. They say, what's happening? My liberal friends, they go, why are you guys doing this? I said, I don't know what's going on, man. These guys, they seem so tone deaf. If you think Kevin DeLeon or Mr. Becerra cares about you, they do not. They care about getting elected. They care about illegal aliens. They care about the dreamers who are documented citizens but in another country, not here. And they want you to feel bad for them. So their kids go to college for free. And you've been busting your hiney, doing the right thing, paying your taxes, and your kids don't. But don't worry, your taxes paid for the illegal alien kids to go to college. That's okay. Come on. When did that become normal? Do they just make you feel bad? Or the moment you start thinking math and logic, excuse me, but 1 + 1 is 2. Well, you're a racist. That's it. The conversation's over. The moment someone calls you a racist, it's over. Why even? I wouldn't debate with a racist. I wouldn't debate with a bigot. I wouldn't try to exchange or learn ideas from somebody who's a homophobe. So the moment you call them a name, it's over. So let me explain to you what people on one side think. They think the reason you go down that road to call them a bad name when they talk about the logic of people leaving, well, you're just racist, you don't like Hispanic people. Yeah, right. The reason they do that is because they can't debate the math. And because they can't debate the math and they lose the argument under logic, they have to go down the road of, you must be a racist. Well, okay.
Instead of debating the argument or the fact, if you attack the person, make more noise, and when you look like you're smarter, make more noise on the TV or the articles, more posts on Facebook or whatever, that can be enough to maybe not make you appear as the winner in the public eye, but at least drown out the opponent, and then that can be good enough in some cases for some of these folks.
Here's something that's pretty important. Just because somebody screams louder doesn't make them right. Just because somebody can have 50,000 people protest, it doesn't mean they're correct. It just means they don't have a job. And they're out there screaming and yelling. Just because students walk out on a protest, it doesn't mean that they're correct. It means they care about that idea. And that's amazing. That's wonderful. But it doesn't mean they're right. There's almost 1 million people that work in state and local governments in the state of California. About 1 million. California has such an enormous bureaucracy and so many people work in social services that statistically speaking, if there were people that moved off of the welfare rolls, in other words, they had jobs, they were actually placed, they were removed from the welfare rolls, you would have thousands of people lose their jobs in the state. Now, if you are beholden to a union, a public union, who gets paid when there are more people paying dues, and they pay for my campaign, do I want there to be less people paying dues so there would be less money going to my campaign? We're just doing the logic game here, right? I don't think so. With individuals with income 200% above the poverty line, they receive benefits. Is that not insane?
And the poverty line is so large these days in California, and so many people are under it that we're on almost 1 out of 5 residents in California are considered poor. And, once again, this isn't from Alex Jones or Fox News. This is from the U.S. Census Bureau. So I think they're generally going to be pretty impartial, pretty much looking for the facts.
California's poverty problem with housing, more than 4 in 10 households spent more than 30% of their income on housing, and that's in 2015, before prices are where they are today. It is no wonder that a husband and a wife both have to work in order to provide a reasonable home and a reasonable school district for their children. Now, think of it like this. I was just in Texas and Nevada. They are between $1.20 and $1.50 less per gallon of gas. If you do the math that the average person fills up 20 gallons per week, okay? 20 gallons, it's probably more than that in California, but let's just say 20 gallons per week. And you call that about $30 in savings per week. That's about somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,500 back in your pocket. Fine, $1,500. Put that aside and let's do the next math. Now you have an income tax issue where if you earn $150,000 a year, right? That means one of you is a police officer and one of you is a nurse. We're not talking about executive CEOs. You're a law enforcement police officer, nurse, school teacher, counselor, right? Husband, wife, or husband, whatever you want to call it. Put them together. You had $150,000 in income. That's another $15,000 per year in taxes approximately. So now you're at $15,000 plus $1,500, that's $16,500. When you can have a sales tax that is approaching 10%, and in most other places it's less than 6 or 7. And let's say let's call it a 3% savings. And let's say you're going to spend per month $3,000 between food and groceries. Okay? 3,000. So 3 times 3 is 90. It's about $100 in savings. Okay? That's another $1,200. The point is, by the time you're done, a husband and wife that makes $150,000, they end up with about $2,000 per month more in their pocket if they are not here in California. Now, you can tell me a lot of things about $2,000, Nancy Pelosi, that's not a lot of money. It's crumbs. What did she say? Breadcrumbs? But to me, that's a lot of money, guys. $2,000 a month, that pays for my children's college. That can pay for a house. That can pay for a nice car for my wife and kids and a vacation that year. The point is, guys, that the quality of life that you can lead, your California politicians have sold you out. And I don't know why. It has to be money. Ask them this. Some of you young kids, you want to be Mr. and Mrs. Investigative Reporter? Take a look at the top leaders in California politics and look to see if they own real estate in other states. They're telling you it's a great place. Ask Mr. De Leon where he's going to retire. Ask Mr. Becerra where he's going to retire. Ask Governor Brown where his vacation home is, because, by the way, he has at least one. I think it's 2. Because they're creating a mess, and then they walk out the back door with their pension or their retirement accounts, and they say, hey, you guys, don't forget to shut off the lights. I'll see you in Florida.
Most other states, it's a fact of life. The governments, state, local, federal, whatever, they need money to survive and to provide the services we all need, roads, etc. Most states accomplish this. We got a few different options: property tax, income tax, sales tax, whatever. Most states will pick one, and that's what they focus on. They'll focus on a relatively higher property tax, but no gas tax, sales tax, etc., and that gives them the income they need. California's gone to the route of, well, you do that, and pick that one, and one over there. It's a cumulative effect, guys, where when you make $100,000 or $50,000, whatever it is that comes home on your pay stub, that's not what you actually get to keep. It runs through the filter of...
You remember when Amber, your sister, my daughter, received her first paycheck she works at a coffee restaurant, shop, and she got her first paycheck, and she said, Dad, what is this? What is this $40 that was taken out? I go, well, let me see. I'm not sure. She said, why do I have to pay FICA and SDI? I said, this is what we talk about. And before you know it, she also had to pay state income tax. Interesting.
Right. Once your paycheck, that's this big number that looks attractive, that's what everyone talks about. Once that gets passed through the filter of federal income tax, state income tax, city or county, depending on where you live, then you've got the employment tax, and you've got all these other little things. It's a fee, it's a tax, whatever it is. So you end up with a much smaller number on the other end. And really, even then, you then got to add sales tax before you can spend it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it just builds up, because it's not just you that deals with that. When you go to the grocery store, they have to run that $100 you spent on groceries last week. It gets run through that same filter before an employee can get that and take it home.
If you take a look at some of the different states and you look how often the state legislatures meet across the country, and most of them are part-time, meaning they have other jobs. They're back in the communities. It's anywhere between 40 and 100 days. That means the rest of the time they're at home, and they're not getting paid big money. They're getting paid $2,000, $3,000 a month, where it truly is a public service and not a pension-driven or a connection-driven, self-serving place. But here's why that matters. If you have a problem with the Hart District, if you have a problem with the water board, well, you're going to see those guys at church or at the grocery store, at the baseball field. How often are you going to see the folks from Sacramento? Never. I mean, our local person, great, but remember, he's a Republican. He has no virtually no say in anything up there. Nice guy, I love Scott, but if he has an idea, they're going to take it, make it a dem idea, put their name on it. They can do that, by the way. You propose a bill, they say, this is a great idea, but Joe over here is going to be coming up for election, and we don't care about you, Scott, so we're going to put it under Joe's name. And it becomes Joe's sponsored bill, and it goes through the system, and there you go. Did you know that? It doesn't matter if it's your idea. If it's a good idea, the Democrat leadership takes it and puts somebody else's name on it. Even though that son of a gun may do nothing that year, they want to keep him or her seat.
And really, again, this goes back to the bureaucracy stuff we were talking about earlier. It's not just the elected people who have the impact on your lives. With local positions, the city manager or whoever else, the administrators for the school districts, again, they live in the community. Mm-hmm. You can interact with them. Not that hard to find them if you need to speak with them or go through the chain of the principal to whoever. How many of you know how to get a hold of the state environmental guy who lives in Sacramento,
right?
Who's my age, born in the workforce, out of college for a grand total of, 2 years max? And yet he makes a decision that affects you right here without ever even having been south of Sacramento.
That's right. North Carolina legislatures make $17,000 a year. What do you think they make in California? 110. Oh my gosh, what? Maybe that's a job to have. How often do they meet in North Carolina? Not very often. And why am I sharing these states with you? Here's what we see. Here's where I'm seeing a lot of people go to retire. Number one is we're seeing Nevada. We're seeing Arizona. Now, when I say Nevada, not so much Reno, but Lake Tahoe or Las Vegas, the Henderson, Las Vegas area. When I see Arizona, some of it is the Phoenix, but the Scottsdale story of reasonably priced has run its course. I don't see a lot of people trying to downsize financially, not necessarily house size, but financially. I don't see a lot of people moving to Scottsdale anymore because it's now very similar in price to Santa Clarita. But I do see Prescott, Arizona, do see Flagstaff, Arizona, right? A little higher elevation, a little cooler, a little less heat, but sometimes snow. We see people moving to Texas, outside of Dallas, outside of Waco, right? That new television show the last few years really has popularized Waco, Texas. So you're seeing a lot of people moving to eastern Texas, western Texas, northern Texas, all over. We're also seeing a lot of folks move to Idaho. Now you might say that's kind of weird, but Boise, Idaho just came in this week as one of the top places for retirees to live. Isn't that amazing? Now you look at them, all of the states that I give you are very conservative or conservative leaning. All of the states that I just gave you are very fiscally conservative and have Republican leaning, very liberal gun laws. In fact, a friend of mine, when I told you I was in Texas recently, I walk in and go, gosh, what's your waiting period? How long does it take to buy a gun? He goes, however long it takes you to swipe your credit card. He's like, what? I said, yeah, you just swipe you have to have a Texas ID. You can't buy it from another state. They run a background check on you, takes a second, and poof. Same thing with Idaho. You swipe it, they run a background check. Yep, you're clean. California, it's, hey, if you're mad at your ex-wife's new boyfriend, you have to wait 10 days so you can cool down. As if something's going to change in 10 days if you're a bad guy. So that's the point. If you think it's about gun laws, if you think it's about giving free stuff to people for just existing as opposed to working, you're going to see some changes. Now, what else am I seeing? Oregon and Washington State. Now, out of that example, North Carolina, I didn't mention North Carolina, but for some reason we're seeing a lot of people move there. Couple to South Carolina, but the story of Florida, I am seeing less movement to Florida. In fact, very, very few. I couldn't say that 5 or 6 years ago. 5 or 6 years ago, Florida was on the top of the list. Today, it's on the bottom of the list of what we are seeing as clients moving. And these are retirees that want things to do. So when you retire, it is more about learning. So let's have a place where there's a university, or I think the best bargain ever is a community college. I think if they have a really good performing arts center, like we have a great one here, I think that can make all the difference. Where you want to go back and learn metal shop, retired executive, go do it. You're a retired government worker and you want to go and learn carpentry, community college is the place to go. So I think community colleges, being close to one, is important. I think having a good hospital, a good medical system, that healthcare system that's in place is very important, because as we get a little older, there's things that are going to break and hurt and need medications and all of the stuff that we need. So look for a place that is close to that. And one of the things that I didn't value as much until recently is look for a place that has culture. Now, I think the phoniest thing in the world that people use as a way of power and taking away power from you is this thing called diversity. Because there is no such thing. Because we're diverse as long as it's only diversity in color, which is the exact same thing Martin Luther King said not to have. We should all be treated the same. Your character is what matters. Content of your character. Remember that? Content of your character. Brilliant man. Unfortunately died before his time. I think he would be shocked to walk into a university and you see a corner over here of Japanese students, a corner over here of Asian students, a corner over here of black students, white students. What? I thought universities are... Why is there an association of whatever? Shouldn't there be everybody together? I'm just telling you what Martin Luther King, maybe I'm wrong. Shouldn't there be real diversity? Means everybody's together. And if you're a jerk, it's because you're a jerk, not because you're of your color or your height or your weight or your last name. And we started seeing this movement where I think true culture is where you can go to a place and everybody's there. And you don't care if there's a Muslim person walking by. Are they a nice person? Great, nice person. Oh, a Chinese person, a Hispanic. Great. So go to a place that is not as homogeneous, in my opinion, because I think the food, the culture, the ideas, everything that comes from a true melting pot, as opposed to what our universities and far left locations seem to drive, which is you're over here in your corner, and you're over here in your corner, and you're a victim over here, and you're a victim over here. You want to lose power? Call yourself a victim. You want to lose control of your own life? Be a victim. Fall into that. Look, I know some of you don't like this. I'm okay with that. I know the word off your lips real quick is the R word. Racist. Yeah, great. Lebanese guy with black family members, Filipino family members, gay family members. What else? Anything else in our family? Of course, Arab, because that's what we are.
Hispanic.
Oh, yeah, we have Hispanic, Italian, have Mexican and Italian. Yeah, that's it. We care if you're a decent person. And to a person, those people in our family that I mentioned to you will tell you they can't believe that these clowns speak for them. Give me a chance. That's all I want. I don't want a guarantee. The more of a guarantee you give me, the more you take away my freedom. Higher guarantees, lower freedom. Well, that's not fair. You don't care about people. Oh, yeah? We'll compare checkbooks. We'll see who gives more money away. I think you have to decide if you're going to fight for this state. And honestly, guys, I don't know. I don't know a lot of people that are willing to fight yet for this state. I think a lot of people think it's lost. I'm sharing with you a public struggle because I'm one of those. I don't know if this is a lost cause. I don't know if you should yell behind you and say, hey, the last one out, get the lights, because these folks are driving it down the train into the tubes here, right? So we're going to take a break. We're going to continue in just a minute. You got a list of where folks are moving to, California. You stay tuned. As we go through the next couple of weeks, we're going to bring on young people, 20s, somethings, and ask them if they think opportunity still exists here in California, and what does it look like for them? Opportunity for them might be different than opportunity for you when we come back. The Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Logan on your place for news, talk, and information. This is your hometown station on the Total Financial Hour. We'll be right back.
We know you've made some New Year's resolutions, and so did the Church on the Way Santa Clarita. The Church on the Way Santa Clarita is celebrating 10 years as a church, and they resolved to make the next decade even greater by continuing to love God, serve people, and change lives. Join them on Sundays at 8:30, 10, and 11:30 a.m., where there's something available for everyone. They can't wait to meet you. For more information about what's upcoming at the Church on the Way Santa Clarita in 2018, visit tcotwsc.org.
It's never been so easy to have a great night out. Whether it's a date night or girls' night out, experience Pinot's Palette in Valencia or Encino. Order your favorite drink from the bar and paint your very own masterpiece. No art experience needed. Local artists make it easy for you. So you can paint, sip, and listen to great music while creating a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. Fun, relaxing, and memorable. Pinot's Palette. To book your party, go to pinotspalette.com. That's pinotspalette.com.
It isn't often when we see a company launch in Santa Clarita and become an international sensation. In 2010, Jen Gerard founded Whitening Lightning in her Valencia kitchen. Now it's a booming international sensation. Leading actresses and international models have switched to Whitening Lightning to avoid the mess, hassle, and sensitivity of other products. Whitening Lightning's simple Dial-A-Smile kit will dramatically turn your teeth whiter in just 20 minutes. Rediscover how white your teeth can look. Visit whiteninglightning.com. whiteninglightning.com.
Your building sign is essential in getting customers to your location. Feathers can help get your business noticed. They walk you through each phase of your building sign project, providing special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will give you a sign you can be proud of. Your building sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Feathers on Soledad in Canyon Country, across from the Edwards Theater. Or go to feathersphoto.com. That's feathersphoto.com.
Santa Clarita Valley has a long history of safe, reliable water service. SCV Water is dedicated to increasing efficiencies, protecting our vital resources, and improving their customers' experiences. That's you. Meet them at their new home on the web at yourscvwater.com. There, you can find the latest news, rebates, and much more. That's yourscvwater.com. They can't wait to serve you.
You got some aches and pains, you weekend warrior, chronic inflammation or chronic pain? Well, guess what? I've got a solution for you. It's called Men Cryotherapy, right here in Santa Clarita. Men Cryotherapy is what the major leaguers are using to mend their aches and pains. They're in the LA Fitness Shopping Center on Newhall Ranch Road. They could be a wonderful blessing for you to relieve you of your joint pain and regain your mobility. Remember the name, Men Cryotherapy, or check them out at mencryotherapy.com. That's MEND cryotherapy.com.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
Thanks for listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
Hey, we're back on your hometown station. We'll have to do a couple of things here as we finish up this hour of the show. One of the things that I want to figure out with you, or have you figure out, I should say, is it worth fighting for? Right? For a lot of us, it's about family. Because what is the one thing you deal with every single day? Believe it or not, it's weather. When I have found clients retire and move to Indiana or move to Michigan, and then they come back, and I say, well, why'd you go? You know, your mom's side of the family's from there, or your wife's side of the family's from that city or state. Why did you return? And they said, the weather. So the weather is a really big part of it. But I think it's also beyond that. It is family. But ask yourself, how often do you see your family? If you see them once a week, then it's going to be difficult to fly in once a week. But if you're somebody who sees the same family members, right? I have some cousins I don't see but maybe once a year. And they live, 15 miles from my house. So it depends on who you're close with, friends or family. Could everybody move there? Would a lot of people move there? Would anybody else move with you? Those are big changes that you want to think about.
And these are all some of the little things you don't always anticipate when you're getting ready to retire and move. If you just have the nebulous goal, I want to go to Texas. Well, where? If you go down by the ocean, down by the Gulf of Mexico, that's very different from if you're up in the Panhandle, if you're
That's right.
out in the western part of the state.
Well, there's different scenery, and there's different humidity, there's different weather, right? If you're going to be at a place where there's warm water coming up from the Gulf, like Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida. I've been in Florida in July. Oh, my gosh. For us, right, we're from the desert here in Santa Clarita. You walk outside, and we're dry. 5, 10, 15% humidity, even 30% humidity. we think it starts to get humid, but it's still very dry when you go to other parts of the country. And 70 and 80% humidity is the norm through 60 days out of the summer. So there is a change you have to get used to. There is a process. A friend of mine, when I was a policeman, he was my sergeant. Nice guy, shorter guy, African-American guy, grew up in LA, but got accepted to the Mets. So he was in spring training in the Mets, playing in Florida, or practicing in Florida, whatever they were doing, spring training. And he was telling me, he said, Arif, the humidity was so bad that, and they had to warm up and practice, this is not just going to your car from the mall. He said it was so bad that he became a pretty grumpy guy, and he got in an argument with one of the coaches, and they fired him. And he said, to this day, I blame the humidity for me being fired. But he came back home, and then he was my sergeant. Ron was his name. I won't give you his last name, but I think he later became a lieutenant, maybe even a captain at one point, because as I left years ago, I saw he was continuing to promote. So his pathway in life that God created certainly didn't include baseball, but the humidity. So that story stuck with me. I was 21 years old when I worked for him, and it was a very unique experience to learn about humidity from a person who gave up a baseball career, specifically a dream that all of us might have.
Right, and California's got the best weather in the world, all of that. So giving that up, you may not always realize what you have until suddenly you don't.
And truly, that's the case, folks. But remember this, you can always return for vacation. You can stay for a month or two.
Or 5, as long as it's not your residence.
That's right, 5 3/4, right? What's the deal? It's if you're here for less than you are in somewhere else. So don't think you have to leave and sell everything. And financially, speak with your financial advisor or your professionals. Maybe part of your goal should be to keep the house here as a rental. Maybe it's an Airbnb rental. Maybe it's your kids are living there and paying you rent, or so that you still have a place here. The old story that a lot of people will say is, once you leave California, you can't return because it's so expensive to get back into real estate. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe that's part of it. But don't forget that a part of this process is for you to live the next part of your life financially free and not stressed out.
And maybe that solution is you don't sell everything, cut all ties with the state. Keep some things if you've got a property that's grandfathered in with Prop 13 and whatever.
That's right.
You've already built up equity in it. Maybe it makes sense to keep it, continue to use it, maybe generate income. Like we said, rent it out or something like that. And where does that income tax from the renting, where do you pay that tax on?
That's right. Big part of this is for you to realize in your life, you're going to have to make choices. And for a lot of people that are leaving California, they're doing so for quality of life reasons. The U.S. News and World Report article is not the beginning of this story. It's been going on for a decade as the bureaucrats are running this local and state government into the tank. Somebody has to stand up. And maybe the fight is over. Maybe we have to let it collapse. I don't know the answer. But stay tuned with us next week as we continue. We're going to start bringing on those youngers, those 20s, and see what their point of view. Thanks for listening. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Logan. On your place for news, talk, and information, the Total Financial Hour on your hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220.